So hello everybody, welcome back. I hope that you like this video and that you find it helpful somehow. So anyway, grab your coffee, and if you wanted to share with me, we'll add it. Links for that down below. And this video is for a friend. She didn't ask for this video, but I am making it because I just got an Amazon gift card, and she mentioned that she is doing a lot of work in her garden, and so I figure that I help her with this topic, and somehow I think it will work. But anyway, also I have been sick for the last 3 weeks, and so like I mentioned in the other videos, it's insane. And anyway, so as you can tell, I have a garden. I don't have chickens. I do have a dog, and having this garden, I needed help from my uncle. He is an agricultural engineer, one of the best in the entire country, and so he is a specialist in turning city dwellings like your backyard and stuff like that into production type of gardening. And so there are several things that you want to consider when you're talking about gardening, and it is very, very, very important that you know these things. These things nobody tells you, and that's why you may be failing at gardening. And gardening is one of those things that people will rely upon one way or another one. And so, number one, gardens are made up of plants, which they require different types of light. They also require different types of irrigation, as in quantities of water. And they also have a type, as in they are either wind resistant or fire resistant or neither. And so it's important, and actually there might be a fire hazard and there might be a wind hazard. And so it's important that you understand whether they are a hazard or they are protections, barriers, so to speak, for either of those two things, for fire or for wind. Meaning, okay, so a lot of people plant just everywhere, just because they are like, in that corner I like the flower, in that corner I like that thing, in that corner I like the other one, blah, 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 and that's not how it works. Here is how it works, so that you can create what they call microclimates. Now, you want to do the research to understand concepts of gardening. What is the difference between concepts and definitions? If you read the dictionary, it's a definition. If you have to think and you have to understand a word into a bigger context, and you have to connect it to other ideas, and then you also need to overlap it with other concepts, then it is called concepts. Okay? And so what's the difference? Like I said, one, you can just go into a dictionary and get it. So you get a plant. Dictionary is a biological being that is within the vegetable kingdom, and it is this and this and this and that, blah, blah, blah. So that's the definition. The concept will be, okay, so that plant belongs to the ecosystem. That plant does the photosynthesis things. That means that it requires light. This plant is this type. This plant requires this, blah, blah, blah. And so now you have like 50 things that it need to be incorporated into the idea that you are managing a plant. And so that is why you need teachers, and that is why you need higher level of thinking. Now, everybody use plants, like I told you. Okay, so I like this thing here, that's it, But that doesn't work. The reason being is, like I just told you, plants belong to an ecosystem, and in the ecosystem, there is wind, there is fire, there is irrigation, as in gravity, channeling, and watering, and then it is a thing, the idea that you need to collect the plants and put them where they are supposed to be. Now, if you're going to do this, then make a drawing of the area. So if it is a circle, it's a circle. If it is a square, it's a square. If it is, I don't know, a weird shape that you have in your backyard, then it's a weird shape. If you have, I don't know, if you have a rectangle because it is a pool, then set up a rectangle. And understand the following. Number one, east and west, obviously. Reason being is that in the east, you will have the sunniest part. And if you are going to plant, you need to set up on the east the plants that require most lights, okay, most lighting. And so if you set up in the east plants that require shading, they are going to make it very, very hard to live in there. And vice versa. If you have plants that require a lot of light and you put them in the west, or you put them in a place where light doesn't show up as it is just dwelling, because it is on the opposite side of where the sun is getting up from, then it's going to be a problem as well. Because now the plants are going to try to get light, and they are trying to face east, they can't. And on top of that, you put up a lot of plants that are acting as barriers, and so they will also struggle to survive and make it. Therefore, first, figure out whether that plant needs more or less light. Then, figure out whether that plant is big or small, and big, small, huge, and whether or not it can be placed as a wind barrier or as a fire barrier. The most other part of the garden, as in the one that should be in the wall. See, my garden is in there, and if I had no wall, I will set up an entire wall of plants that resist fire. So first, you need fire-resistant plants, or plants that, if there is a problem with embers and other stuff, these plants can catch them, and very likely they will not ignite as easy. There are plants that can withstand even 1,000 degrees Celsius. And so some of them, not all of them, obviously. But these plants are barriers, fire barriers, because your major concern when you come to any kind of issue will be fire, because an ember that travels through your garden, it will set up everything on fire, including but not limited to your car, which is your biggest problem when you're handling a garden. If you have a garden, you really, really, really want to have your car far away from the garden. The reason being, cars are fire hazards, and they can create all the kinds of issues when it comes to handling this. And if you want to know more about this topic, then you need to talk to the fire department. They will tell you all about where to park your car in a way that it will prevent your house from catching a fire. And if you place it near gardens, yeah, that is a horrible idea. And so, no, honest to God, you really want to figure out that one. And so, after you have the barrier for fires, then you need a barrier for wind. Reason being, there are a lot of plants that, if they are properly rooted, as in they are planted deep enough, they will protect all the other plants from wind, which is extremely important. Also, they will protect the soil that is next to them, so that way you won't have a lot of dust and a lot of the nutrients being flown away, and small seeds, that especially flower seeds, will be thriving and all of these things because there is not too much wind. And therefore there are plants that also, if there are animals, as in you have chickens, you have dogs, you have hens, you have other stuff like rabbits and others, they will use these plants to protect themselves from storms and winds and other things in a natural type of way. And so these plants also bend, and that is why they should be near the fire one. Reason being is that in this way they will be able to help you to protect yourself from those two elements. And so fire, then wind. When you have the wind one, it will also protect everything else, including but not limited to birds that are nearby and all kinds of other stuff that you don't even know. And so it is very, very, very important that you root it, that you take care of the roots of these plants like insane. If that thing can go, I don't know, let's say 1 meter on the ground, you try to frame it 1 meter on the ground. That way it will be protected for everything. And like I said, when they are bending, if there is a fire, they will help you as well. And if you want to know more about that topic, then like I said, go and figure this one out with your fire department. And when you're talking about a garden, if you have a garden, you want to understand microclimates, as in whenever you have a plant that is the type that is this one, like that one, the one that will have one big one, and then it will go around it, and it can make different types of things. It's like a hanger type of plant. Those will create microclimates. So for example, if you have grapes and you have passion fruit and you have all of the other ones, they will act like a microclimate thing, meaning whenever they are near another plant, they will create more moisture, and they will also create a wind protection barrier for insects and other stuff, which will enhance the natural cooling of that small, tiny area. And so that type will create their own microenvironment. And that is why a lot of monasteries in the past and a lot of places used to have lots and lots and lots of grapes all over. Because grapes will enhance the cooling effect of other plants like pine trees and others. Okay? And so although they are not put together, it's kind of like the same effect. Whenever you have a pine tree like that one or that one, the environment will cool off by at least 1 degree Celsius. But you need at least 2 or 3 plants that are within 5 meters of each other. And in the middle, as in connecting those plants, you want to have bridges, and the bridges are made by those type of plants. And so you want to have different types of plants. There is another one that it is I always forget the name of these type of plants, but papaya trees and palm trees like that one, they are like a roof effect, meaning they will grow almost anywhere, like in between plants, and they will act like a roof. And when you have that type of roof, if it's kind of like a bridge but they act better in terms of forming the microclimate because they will protect the lower levels. Even though that they're, if you take a look at that, it's kind of like an umbrella that protects below. And because of that, those areas will have different types of microclimates as well. And so you want to connect plants properly. That can be done by that type and the other type. And when you have microclimates, you can do a lot of things in there. Number one, you want to have flowers no matter what, because these flowers are going to attract bees, which are extremely important for your ecosystem. And you want to have a lot of things. Now, if you attract bees and you have kids that are allergic to bees and things like this, then you need to understand how are you going to protect your kid from the bees in the garden. Because no matter what, you will attract bees and you will attract other stuff into the garden. And that may or may not include things that may or may not be poisonous. There are a lot of gardening that will attract things like scorpions, snakes, and others. And so whenever you have certain types of birds, they will attract snakes, and vice versa. Whenever you have snakes, there will always be certain types of birds that will eat them. So it's kind of like you have the prey and you have the predator. Birds are eaten by snakes. And so if you have a lot of snakes, you will have a lot of birds and vice versa. And so when you have a lot of birds, you want to understand whether they are praise for other birds or they are praise for others. Because if you have those type of things, you need to understand whether they will be predators that are following them or whether there will be other issues. Also, in your garden, never, ever, never feed the birds. You need to give them water. To the birds, you only give them water. Reason being is that if the birds do not eat the nectar from the flowers, or if the birds do not eat the seeds, then the plants will disappear. And it was proven. There was a community, an entire community, that all of a sudden decided to become like the world's hummingbird thing, like the hummingbird community thing. And then next year, all the plants and all of the flowers that were the natural ecosystem that supported those home bees, they disappeared. And so basically, you just made a plant extinct because the ones that are making the pollination process are the birds, and you are feeding the birds. So the birds are not feeding from the nectars. They are not feeding, and therefore they are not propagating the seeds, and they are not going to be any more flowers. And by year 2, as in the year 1, more than half of the plants were gone. And then by year 2, there was a hummingbird thing that now they were not able to find food anywhere, and then they are now depending upon humans. And if you make an entire species, you make it domesticated like that, you just destroy the ecosystem. And so now, the day that you do not feed the freaking hummingbirds, they will starve to death. And basically, you destroy everything because you didn't know that you are not supposed to be feeding the birds. You could feed the bird only and only if there is a very, very, very hard emergency. So, for example, there was a flood, there was a fire, there was an earthquake, there was a natural disaster type of thing, there was a chemical spill, and now the birds cannot find natural food and things like this, then okay. At that point, you can use it because you can save them. But if you're doing it for any other purposes, then understand that you are going to destroy the ecosystem. And if you do that, the next year, all of the farming that depends upon pollination will be gone. And so when that happens, there is going to be a famine for the entire human race. Reason being, you are messing up with the insects and the birds, and you are not supposed to be doing that unless you know what you're doing. Okay, so understand the risk of gardening and understand how are you going to protect it, and understand that nature will take its course, and if you are going to support nature, you're not supposed to be messing around with that thing, because otherwise nature will mess around with you. Next is very important that you understand that if you're going to have bees and all of those things, that means that you can get honey. Now, if you buy a honey box thing, as in you buy the one that, the one that people use for commercial purposes and collect honey and all of these things, if you buy it, that means that everybody will know that you bought it. And therefore, if there is the probability of somebody stealing, jumping your fence and just go in and get that box and leave with the honey and leave with everything, it will happen. And therefore, now you lost all your bees and you lost your honey and you lost everything. And honey is an extremely lucrative business. It can be sold for thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. And so if somebody can just jump around and get all those boxes, then, they will do it, because they can collect all the honey and then they can just drop the box anywhere. And then you will be left without the box, which costed you a lot of money, and you will be left without the bees, which are now missing from your garden, and that means that you may not collect a lot of seeds and you will not collect a lot of fruits later on because the pollination process did not happen. Therefore, what people do is they take a lot of trees that are huge, like that one, but bigger, like the ones that are there on the plaza near my house. And so people will go into those trees and they have to go through a stair, as in you have to get a ladder and go up like 2 or 3 floors and set up those things in those trees. And when you need honey or you need anything, you just go and get it through the ladders, and that way nobody will know that thing is there. And you need to learn how to camouflage that thing. If you learn how to camouflage that thing, meaning you buy it, but you don't make it with the traditional model that everybody knows what it is. Because as soon as somebody says, oh, there is that box in there, it's filled with honey. Okay, it's being stolen. However, if it is a weird shape thing, it's a rock, or it looks different, blah, 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 then, nobody's going to think, okay, there is a rock in there. Nobody's going to steal it. See what I mean? So you camouflage it the best that you can, and you try to set it up in trees. And even in those trees, I'm going to tell you right now that I have a lot of people that live in the countryside that used to do that one. And the second in which they went to collect the honey, there was not any kind of honey inside, because people will steal the honey and then they will leave it there. And the same will happen when you have root type of plants like potatoes, cassavas, and other things like carrots and others. People will just take the plant, take the root, cut it, and then plant it again. And that way you, the owner, will not know that somebody came and already stole everything from you. And so when you have those type of issues, you need to learn how to protect it in ways that if something happens, you will know in advance. And that way, at least you will know that something is up. And you can do this by camouflaging as in putting plant within plants, and that way it will be difficult to see. Or you can set up proper fences filled with animals, which is my next point. You have cases that are made with this type of material, and then you can make corridors, entire corridors, like tunnels, that connect bigger plants like that one. I'm waiting for all of the plants to be at least this size, okay, that size. And then you can set up a corridor all over the place for animals like rabbits, hens, chickens, and others. And that way they can help you protect certain other plants. So for example, in the middle of the corridor, you set up another area that's still protected by the chickens and others, but it only has carrots on it. And that way it will be protected from the chickens, and it will be protected by the chickens. And so that is one way to do it. But it will be it will depend upon the layer that you have, the designs that you have, the space that you have, the animals that you have. It will depend upon the other stuff like gravity. So next we are going to talk about that one. First, like I said, plant the light, understand that you need to connect bridges so that you can create microclimates. Understand that in the bottom you can create corridors with that fence. Understand the things that you will be attracting. Like I said, if you're going to attract certain things, you will also attract other ones, and therefore you might need to understand first aid for animals that might be trapped within your area, within you not knowing. So for example, you may have owls, you may have hawks, you may have other birds or animals that accidentally get into your garden, and they can be trapped in fences, or they can be trapped for whatever reason, like even fighting other animals. And then other birds will attack other birds, and then birds fighting will actually create problems, and then they will try to rest in the tree branches. And when that happens, you may need to know first aid for those things. If use basic first aid for animals in case that you want to help them, or you want to just get them so that you can try to fix them. Of course, when you are dealing with wild animals, you need to understand what you're doing. There is they are wild animals, so they might attack you. You might need to get different types of gloves and others to deal with this type of thing. And within your area, there is always going to be as well the land. The land has a natural inclination, and you want to understand the natural inclination because when it rains, the top part is for the plants that do not require that much water. Why? Because the water is here and it is running. Therefore, the amount of water that will get this soil, the one that is on top, is always going to be lower than the one that goes down, 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 down. And the ones that go down, it can even be stuck in there, and it can create like a puddle, a small puddle. And so that one, you place the plants that require most water in there. And that way, they will protect that soil. They will thrive because they have more water rather than if they were on top. And you also want to understand how is that going to affect your drainage system. Because if you don't have a drainage system within your garden, it can create a problem when you are having too much rain. And when there is a drought, it's also going to be a problem if you have to place water all over the place, rather than if you just place one hose on the top and then it can go down. See, it's easier. Irrigation is easier when you understand gravity and when you understand what type of plants you set up in each level, as in top, medium, and then in the bottom. In the bottom, it will be, like I said, more puddle, more mud, and more everything. So you want to get the plants that require most water, like that one. Bananas and plantains and things like that. Oh my God, they require water like insanity level. And so we try to set them up everywhere. But see, that one is higher than that one, and that is why that one gave me the production. It was way faster than that one. Also, you want to understand natural ways for fertilizing the land, and if you can set it up in a way in which you spend less and you don't depend so much upon chemicals, it will be the best way to go. That one can be done by setting up natural ecological systems, meaning you want to get other stuff that will produce poop, like the chickens or rabbits or pigs or whatever it is. And you can also get your blender. Every time that you cook vegetables, use the peelings and all of that, mix them with water, put them in the blender, and create that type of paste or juice, and then you throw it into certain plants, and then they will work. If you want plants to give you more, way more production, as in fruits and others, then you can add aloe vera. A natural aloe vera is one of those things that if you set them a lot of natural aloe vera, if you place a lot of that in the root of the plants, it will help them produce more. However, understand that it's going to be, a process, and it can contaminate the whole thing, because aloe vera contains a lot of iodine, and therefore a lot of people do not handle these, because there is a lot of things that are going on when you're handling iodine, and when you're handling things that may be tainting, as in coloring things. And at the same time, not a lot of people have aloe vera in their houses. And so it's one of those things. And even if you have aloe vera, the amount that you have is probably not enough to cover your entire garden, especially if you do this on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. And so it's a little bit tiring and time consuming if you're going to do this. It's easier and sometimes faster to just get the ones that are in the stores. Now, you also want to understand that if you have a garden, it might be illegal for you to buy or get certain type of plants because they are a fire hazard. Meaning, okay, so you are in a desert area and you just bought plants that have a lot of oil within them, as in their trunk is filled with oil and things like this. And basically, if you throw an ember by accident into this plant, it will go boom, like if it was a match. And therefore, now you created a major fire within the city or within your area, just because you added a plant that was not fire resistant, but rather it was a fire hazard. Plants that are like this usually are filled with a lot of oil in their trunk, and that is why a lot of people will try to get them. Because if you set up plants, there is a lot of people, by the way, that will create gardens for retirement purposes. Meaning, okay, so you have an oak tree, or you have, I forgot the names in English, But there are a lot of plants that are for wood, getting specific type of wood and a specific type of oils and things that are within those plants. And therefore, if you plant them now, 20 years from now, you can just cut it. And depending upon the size of this thing, you can sell it for thousands of dollars because it is pure wood. And wood, it is one of the materials that is very, very, very expensive. And so if you have 20 of those things in your garden and they are that size and you cut them and then you sell them, it can give you a lot of money. And if it gives you a lot of money, it can help you with your retirement funds. Okay? And taking care of 10 of those plants, depending upon the size of your area, is not that much. And so there are people that will do this because of that, okay? It will help you in the beginning to maintain and support your garden, and later on you can just cut them and sell the wood. 20 years from now, that wood is probably going to be, like I said, thousands of dollars, and it will help you a lot. And so it's something that is a sure, slow, but sure and stable type of income. And the problem is that a lot of those things will attract fire. Mostly pine trees and trees that, like I said, have a lot of oil within their trunks. And there are other things that you want to understand about gardens, and that is whether or not you can use the leaves of a lot of plants. So, not a lot of people know that the papaya trees, where is it? I have a papaya tree right there. Papaya trees are one of those trees that in my garden they have a tendency to die. And so it's very hard. But the papaya tree leaves, the leaves, not a lot of people know that you can use the leaves for teas and other purposes. And the coffee plants, like you can see, I have a lot of coffee. The coffee leaves, when they are clean like this one, they can also be eaten. And so you can use it like to involve things into sandwiches, like wrappings. And if you have a lemon tree, you can use the leaves, you can dehydrate them and then turn them into powder, and it can be used in desserts and others. And so it's not just the lemon fruit, it's also that one. And when you have a plantain tree, there is a lot of people that will cut this thing in the middle, and the center part is a white part, and the white part can be used for producing some sort of paste, some sort of flour, some sort of a starch. They have Asian names. I forgot the Asian names for this thing, but they can be made into stuff for eating, and apparently it's extremely nutritious. And so when you have a plant, don't necessarily think that the fruit is the only thing that is working. There are a lot of things that you do not know about each plant that you have. We have, for example, the guava tree, and I have other type of tree that I forgot the name in English, but that one that we have over there, that one. You can also use the leaves from that thing to make it's not an infusion, it's not a tea, it's a weird medicine thing that will make your hair grow insane. And so if you add that pasty thing that you make with that kind of leaves, and you add it to your shampoo and others, your hair will grow like insane. And so there are a lot of things that you can do with the plants that you have, and the chances that you don't know about that thing are becoming higher and higher every time, because that knowledge is either lost or because people forgot about it, or they just don't say it anymore. And so if nobody tells you, then you won't find out. And so it's very, very, very important that you try to figure out. And I have mentioned this before. When you want to have reflection or more light into your garden, you can use plants that are like that one. See what I mean? Try to take a look at this. See the light? The ones that reflect the most light are the ones that have a high tendency to have more yellow. They are the ones that will reflect more light. And so if you need a place that you need more light to be reflected so that it can be better because it is too shallow, or because you have a bigger plant on top of things like this, then you need this type of plant on the bottom. And let's continue. If there is famine and people are raiding other people's houses and people are raiding your garden and stuff like this, people will go for the usual, meaning the fruits, the roots, like I said, the potatoes, cassavas, etc. But usually, if you have flowers, people will not go and say, "Oh, there is a flower. Yeah, so what?" See what I mean? But if the flower is edible, then you can have those and not everybody will know. So for example, there is a lot of things that you can eat, like certain types of grass, certain types of clovers, and certain types of flowers that it can help you supplement your nutrition. They are not going to be like a staple food, but at least they can help you out if there is a bigger problem, because you will get nutrition. Because hunger represents two things. Is number one, your stomach because it is empty, but number two, your brain that requires nutrients, or at least requires the understanding of nutrients within your body so that it can go wherever it needs to go. So for example, you may be full, and yet your appetite is going rampage on you. Reason being, your brain goes, we need more. But I already ate. No, we need more. But I already ate. Yeah, we need more. But your brain goes, we need more. And then you will even gain weight, and then you will even got more anxiety and all these things. The reason is not that you're not full. The reason is that your brain did not get vitamins, or it did not get the minerals that it needs. And therefore, your brain will go, I need more. Why? Well, because you didn't get the nutrients. And so for your brain, you will be hungry every single time that you don't get the nutrients. And your stomach will go, am I either full or empty? And so your stomach will go, this is the level of me being full, me being empty. That's it. However, your brain goes, we need more. And at this point, you want to understand nutrition from these type of tricks, because that way your brain will help you feel better, and it will help you feel more satiated, even though that your stomach might be growling. And so you have, like I said, two things that are in charge: your stomach and your brain. Your brain is the one that you want to try to get under control, okay? For the other one, you can get the tonics, and you can get other stuff that can help you when there is issues with food and others, okay? And so if the flower is edible, it can also act like a poison. So there are flowers that are poisoning, and you want to understand those things when you are having your garden. And every time that you have a garden, there will be natural mushrooms or fungi that will grow within your garden. And when you have natural fungi that will grow within your garden, you want to understand whether those things are edible or whether they are poison, especially for the animals that you have. Because if your dog or your cat decides to go like, okay, I'm curious about the world and I am eating this, I am eating this fungi weird looking thing, yeah, and that thing is poison. Yeah, so you want to know whether they are poison or not. Especially if you have kids, they might go kind of like, oh, this thing looks edible, right? And so if it is poison, you need to have a contingency plan for dealing with that. There is a lot of people that will buy these type of materials for research purposes. So, for example, a lot of labs will get plants, get fungi, and get others just because they are developing medicine or because they are developing studies of these things, these toxins, and others. And so, if you have that type of growing thing, figure out whether you can actually sell it to these places. Of course, they will need to have permission by law and all of these things, but you want to understand whether you can make money out of that thing, because if nobody is providing these materials and you have them for free in your backyard, and you can make, I don't know, let's say you can make $100 with those things, then, it's worth it because you get it, you throw it, you have $100, that's it. But you need to know where to go and sell it. And you need to know how to handle those things. And so you need contingency plans, as in, okay, if somebody accidentally gets poisoned by those things, what do you do? And your garden is amazing, okay? It is also one of those things that you can make your kid get involved into getting into nature and get it outside of their room, get it outside of their screen time, if they can connect with the sunlight, which is extremely important. And you can help them understand that they live in a world where there are other biological beings, as in insects, stuff that you may not like, but they are important. And so you teach them respect for nature, you teach them how to protect themselves from these type of environments if they were going to be in the mountains or if they go out of their room. Because here's the problem. You are going to be facing a lot of power outages. This means that a lot of people will have to go outside. If you have to go outside and you have never been outside, then of course the insects are going to have a field day with you, especially mosquitoes and all of those things. And then there is a problem that if you have never been exposed to sun at least half an hour every single day, then you will have a skin that the first time that you get out, you might even get sunburns or blisters or all kinds of things. And then if this is the first time that your kids are going outside and they hear certain things, they will not know whether it's a monster, whether it is a bird, whether it is another type of animals, whether it is an insect, whether it is a snake, whether it is other stuff that it might be going on in your garden. And so it's one of those things. It's one of those things that people did not used to have to think about because, our parents, our grandparents used to grow with lots and lots and lots of contacts with hundreds of thousands of plants, insects, birds, animals, all over, everywhere. I mean, the people used to go and know that you're not supposed to go there because it could be there is an uneven type of rock, and it can actually be a problem when you're walking. There are accidents and all those things people used to just walk and know. But nowadays, it's like people don't know anymore. And if you don't know anymore, I mean, come on, there was, like I said, there was a video of a girl. She is 20 something. And she had her best friend go into her house. And the best friend goes and says, "Why are you buying lemons?" And then she goes, "Because I need them to make this thing." "No, I mean, why are you buying lemons?" And then she's like, "Because I need lemons to go on this thing." And then the girl had to say, "Okay, you have a lemon tree in your backyard." And then she said, "Okay, so why do you buy lemons?" "Well, because I need them." "No, go outside and pick the lemon from the lemon tree. You don't need to buy them. You have them in your backyard." And then the girl went insane. She just couldn't comprehend that she could just get the lemons from the lemon tree that was on her backyard. She didn't know that you could get fruits out of trees, and the trees grow or can grow into your backyard. She just didn't know, and she is over 20 years old. And so you're thinking, she's stupid, whatever. No, you're not stupid. She's not stupid. It's just that if nobody tells you, then how are you supposed to know? And so if you have kids, or if you have small members of the family, or whatever it is, like a niece or a nephew or whatever, then you gotta tell them, we have a backyard, we have plants, these plants produce fruit, these plants attract these things attract the other things, this type of prey attract this type of predator, and therefore you gotta be aware of this thing, and you gotta know what to do, what not to do. And then that way they can develop an understanding of the environment they are in. Just because you are into gardening doesn't mean that your family is into gardening. Okay? And so it is a process. And in the process, you will help them so that if they go out, they will not get sunburns just for standing 10 minutes in the sun. Okay? Because if you expose these kids or yourself to the sun every day, half an hour, then you won't get sunburns. If you have to walk, you have to evacuate, you have to run, you have to do whatever, you are now able to do it. But if you're always within your walls inside your house, and you have never been outside, now you got sunburns, you got blisters, you got this, you got that, you're extremely uncomfortable, you're scared, you're anxious, you don't know what to do, and for all I know, you will be screaming every single time that you see, even if you see an ant, you will think that you're going to die because an ant it was in your skin, and you're thinking that the ant is poisonous and is going to kill you. And so no, there are animals that, like I said, that they are a little bit poisonous, but they are manageable. And so you want to have first aid kit for these things at hand, and you want to have first aid kit for the animals that might be trapped in there. And that is if you're willing to help them. If not, then at least you should have the phone number of rescuers, because if you have, birds or weird animals or monkeys or head dogs or whatever it is that are trapped, then you gotta call somebody that can help them and rescue them from your own yard. So, yeah. And anyway, camouflage, and I hope that this was helpful somehow, and see you again soon.